What's going on, everybody? My name is Coda, and welcome back to another episode in my survival world. Now, we're starting off today where we left off last episode at this podium, and I promised I'd work on it in between episodes, and I have, but only a little bit. You can see I finished doing the inside of the roof, I finished terraforming around the base on this side, and I knocked down that really ugly cliff that was on this face of the build. Now, we have not done any terraforming or changing of the land outside of just reworking where the dirt and the grass are. I also went ahead and punched out this small little opening, which is where we're later going to expand our trophy hall. And as you can see, there is a lot of room for expansion out the back here. Now, this build isn't quite finished, but I wanted to get started with today's episode, so I figured we finish the terraforming and whatnot that's left on this build later. And now you might be wondering, what do we have planned for today's episode? Well, before we get started, I have to show you something I've been doing in between this episode and the last episode. You might be able to see a little bit of it right now, but I changed my nether portal. It's not much different other than the fact that there's a lot more detail around this. This was completely inspired by a comment that I got on, I can't remember what episode it was. It might have been the episode that we actually created the cave, but that comment suggested that we make it seem like the nether is reaching out into the overworld, and so that's what I have done. If I remember, I'll make sure to post the comment, maybe a picture of it in this episode so you can see. We also have something that you may have already seen, and that is a little change in the roof. Now, I got a couple of comments saying that the roof was really jarring, and I agreed, but it was with the style that I was going for, so I left it. Until I came up with this idea of changing the stone trim that was around the roof into dark oak. And that way it keeps with the theme that we were going for. It has the same look, but it is a little less jarring, especially from these lower angles. Now, for those of you with sharper eyes, you might notice that peak is a little bit different than it was before. And that's because I alternated the stair step half slab that we had and started with a stair instead of a slab. So it has a lot nicer of a shape. And all in all, I think those minor changes helped me like the roof of that house a lot more. Now, between episodes, I also started work on this. A spare set of armor, completely enchanted. It took hours. But now we have a spare suit of armor just in case we end up dying and we need to go and rescue our stuff from wherever it is we died. But now that you're all caught up, let's get into what we're doing today. Now, I love where we settled down, but the land is a little bit jarring in some places, particularly over there and over there and over there, over there, over there, pretty much everywhere that has a coastline. I'd like to finish the rest of this area before we get into progressing the base. And if we have time in today's episode, I would like to create a home for these animals that have been stuck in the ground since day one. So I'm excited to get a home for these guys. I'm excited to work on the shore and actually lay the baseline for every kind of build that we'd like to do in this area. So without any further ado, let's get to terraforming. So the way that I'm thinking about doing this area is bringing it so that it's one complete tip of like this little peninsula that's forming here. And then I think in this area, we'll probably round this off more and probably cut this little bit out. But we're going to start over here with a nice shoreline, and then we'll move into terraforming like the inner land. First things first, I want to work on the shape of this land. You can see there's a lot of like weird jut-ins. There's some random pools here and there. And then this little top part here just really doesn't make sense. Like it shouldn't be this tall on the very edge unless it's like an actual stony cliff face, which it's not going to be. For this little tip of the peninsula, I think we're going to add in a lighthouse either this episode or next episode. But for anything like that, I really don't need this much height. So first we're going to start off shaping this, and then we'll cut down the height a little bit, and then we'll move into adding more of the sand and more of a beachy feel. Now we've got our outline in, and you can see the idea that I'm going for here. I kind of want it to be more of a rounded beach, and then over on this side I didn't really change much of it, but we'll get into that side later. And then over on this edge, I did end up bringing the shoreline in just a couple of blocks, considering how much further it is inside than it was. But I'm thinking we can shave this down a bit and then turn this into a nice round coast here, and then just end the water about right there. I think that makes a little bit more sense than bringing it all the way up to there, and it looks a lot smoother. Or at least it will once we actually get the terraforming done. I went ahead and flattened all of the land, which is by no means a step that you have to do, but I figured I'd just do this just so I can get my point across a little bit better. For my beach, I want a nice rounded sloping feel. meaning I'm probably going to very gradually raise the terrain of the beach. So it'll probably only go up to about here at the most. Now, to get up to that point around the middle, I'm probably going to have 4, maybe even 5 blocks in of each layer of sand so that it just gradually builds and builds and builds like an actual beach would. You don't see beaches in real life that look like that, right? No, you see nice gradual sand dunes that have been washed up by the waves, and that's kind of the feel that I'm going for, especially right here on the tip of our base, on the tip of this peninsula. I think that feel will go best with this bit of land. And to help y'all visualize it, I kind of outlined it in where all the dirt's going to go. Basically, filled in between this sand and that dirt is where that first layer of sand is going to go, and then we'll start piling it on top of that. There we go. We've got that first layer sanded. Now I'm going to start working on the second, and it might only pop up to 2 layers tall. We'll see. I'm not 100% sure, and you never really know once you first start out how tall it's actually going to get. Now with that last layer in, you can see what I was going for with these beaches. We're basically going to take that concept and bring it all the way around our shores and make our base look a whole lot better and get it ready for every build that we want to put in this little area. So now that you know how I'm going to do the beaches, let's hop into a time lapse.
Soundstripe. Soundstripe.
Now, I know this is a really flat piece of land, but it does look a whole lot better than it did when we started this. And of course, it won't always be this flat. We're going to add more buildings. We're going to add more terrain elevation, but that'll all come in the future. Right now, we have a great base for anything that we could want to build in this world, or at least for now. And don't worry, floating bits of terrain like this will be taken care of, just not today. When it comes to detailing this bit, I really don't want to work on it right now. I'd prefer to go and get started on the build for our sheep and our cows, so I'm going to leave the extra detail bits for later. First things first, I kind of need to get those animals out of the way, so I'm going to make small pens here and just kind of move them so I can actually get a building in place. Perfect. Now that we got them out of the way, I think I want to continue the path along this field here. So this spot will be the perfect place to put our barn. I'm going to take a very strange approach to this build, and we're going to build it from the inside going outwards. There we go. See, the reason I wanted to do that was so we could get some pens laid out, because historically, I make my barns just a little too small. So this way, we avoid that issue, and we make sure we have enough space for all the animals that we want. I'm thinking back there, we get some cows in, and then maybe some sheep here and there, and some pigs and some chickens maybe. Now, functionally, I want these pens to remain kind of like old cobblestoney looking because I want it to feel like this barn was made on top of the pens that were already sitting here. So I want this interior space to feel kind of like old, and then the barn itself to be something that was just put over top these old pens that existed. Now that means we either change this cobblestone out to walls, or we make it too high or a block and a half high, or do some tricks with honey blocks or something like that to ensure that animals won't get out. Here are the pens. They're all jump proof. Don't worry, I tested them myself. But now that these are in place, we are going to work on the actual framework of the barn that we're meant to be putting in here. I want this build to be a little bit more of a lighter accent, so we're going to use stripped wood. Now that we have our framing pillars in, it's time to designate what parts of the build are going to be what. So this like gigantic square here from like that pen over there to that pen right there, that's all going to be one section of the build, and then that part over there is going to be the other section, the other complementary section of this. And I'll show you what I mean. And there we go, see? Now this part here is a lot more domey and like slightly curved, which is it's what I was going for. And then this roof kind of matches more of what you would think of like a traditional barn roof to look like. or at least it will once we actually finish it. And then this little in-between section, we're gonna have to figure something else out. I don't know how these are gonna connect yet, but that's a future problem. What do you think about it, sheep? Oh, he liked it. Now, before I got too ahead of myself, I figured I'd bring you all back in and show you what changes I made. So the roof, this is the old roof that we had. And if you notice this big space here, I was going to fill with oak planks. And it looked like way too many oak planks for what I wanted to get across. So I redid the roof, and now we've got this different, very unique shaping. But it makes us so we only have, like, I think 8 blocks visible total instead of, I don't know, 20 something over here, which tones down the amount of oak planks here, which I appreciate a lot, and the sheep like it a lot too. Now, if you notice, I added in these like strips of stripped spruce wood, and that was to kind of help break up the constant oak that we have here, and also kind of section off the roof. So from this stripped oak to, or sorry, from this stripped spruce wood to this stripped spruce wood, we have the kind of slower incline, and then from this one to this one and that one over there, we have the dome portion of it. And then I also added in these pillars up front here. It breaks it up a lot better. And then you'll see inside I also added these like columns that are going to be used for supporting the roof, so it makes a little more logical sense in my brain, and it's not like this gigantic roof is just floating over nothing. Yeah, we're going to take these same principles and then do that roof. Now, I don't remember if I mentioned it or not, but I did change up the roof a little bit, and it looks like a barn. I think it looks all right. Now, of course, we haven't finished putting in all the detail bits, but you can see that I've added some, on this face, and then some, like in these columns, and then this little roof shape here. And I'm thinking that we're going to add in a bit of roof here and a bit of roof here, just to kind of break up this large oak roof here. And then probably do the same thing on this side with 2 or maybe just 1 little, openings, little windows, something to just break up the monotony of the roof. Okay, that's 1 window finished. Now time to start working on the other one. Got that second window in, and I also worked on this area a bit. I've probably changed it 3 or 4 times by now, but I'm finally at a place where I like the way it looks. Before, I just had the 1 column on each corner, and I think that looked a little too thin. And this roof just, honestly, it looks way too big to be supported by just a couple of thin pillars. So adding a couple of these extra wood supports in makes it sit a lot easier in my brain, and I think it makes a lot more sense. And it also helped to make it look a lot better. And now I've got these 2 windows put in. You can see you can't even access them because they're really just supposed to be windows and something to break up the roof in this section, and I think they came out real nice. Now that looks pretty good. And I'd say for the most part, that means the exterior is now finished. Other than, of course, like final details that we could put around the outside, terraforming around here. But I do believe that is the majority of the exterior of the barn finished. Now, a couple of things I went and added in. I added that line that you see of spruce wood, and then that one right there that's on the very edge of this roof connecting to that roof. And what these 2 lines do is they kind of break up and frame the roofs a lot better. And we've been using spruce as a framing tool in this roof, so I thought it was appropriate to bring that stripe across and that stripe right there, and it helps break up that roof a lot. Slowly but surely, this interior is coming along. Each one of the pens is fully finished, and these 2 even lined up perfectly with those windows that we put in. Now that we've got this front part done, I've got to start working on this section. I'm thinking there's going to be a second floor up here, which will line up hopefully with those 2 windows that we put in, and then we'll have a ladder somewhere. We'll find a place to fit in a ladder, but that's the thought for now. Now the interior of our barn is completely finished, except for the detailing, but the inside is all finished. And I actually did forget about a ladder, but up here on the second floor, I did finish it as well. I added some cross beams up here to make it feel more realistic. I also added this little very narrow and rickety crossway that you can just barely get across, and this section is the exact same as it is over there. Final steps on this is to, of course, finish the ground. We're not going to have it all dirt, we're not going to have it all grass. It's probably going to be something like coarse dirt, podzol, regular dirt. We'll see. And of course, we're also missing some very key elements in this area and this area and this area. So we'll have to move these guys inside, and same with those guys over there in the ground, and import some more because currently we don't have any pigs and we don't have any chickens. So we're gonna have to find some, well, I guess we do have some chickens, but they don't count. We're gonna have to find some of those and get them moved in. And then also we're going to add a lot of details just around, like up here, over there, and just make it feel like an actual barn. The interior is complete, minus the animals, of course. But walking through the front door here, we've got a bit of detail on every little corner of this build. And yes, even up the loft. And you'll notice too that I added doors at every place that we just had an opening before. And some of them are pretty simple, and the front one over here, I tried to mirror a barn door. And I mean, come on, look at it. You can't tell me that's not a barn door. Like, it looks like it's just slid open halfway. I like it. And then this side we have some movement with, you know, a double split door. One of them's open, and it looks really good too. Now, of course, it is still pretty quiet in here, so the next step is to move all these animals inside, and then we can call the inside finally finished. There were a few casualties, but that's okay. We will make a sheep farm eventually, and we'll get every single color of wool, and it'll be okay. At least we won't have to eat bread for a while. Now, the only thing that we have left to do is the outside and all the greenery bits that go with that. And y'all have seen me do decorating on the outside, so I'm not going to go into too much detail on that. We're just going to hop into a time lapse. Now that the majority of the exterior has been decorated, I think we can call this build completed. Now, while the barn might be completed, our animal situation is still not done. We still need some pigs, and we still need some chickens. And of course, some of these guys have to have some names. So if y'all have any suggestions for some funny names that we could name these cows, these sheep, the chickens that we're going to get in, the pigs that we're going to get in, any of our horses or donkeys that we have out here, please let me know. And I will see the comment, and I will name whatever it is you want me to name, whatever it is you want me to name it. But with that out of the way and comments in mind, I have an idea I'd like to discuss with y'all. Now, we've been getting a lot of build suggestions in the comments of my videos, and my challenge for y'all is, in the comments of this video, I want you to drop 3 suggestions for a build. Preferably one person drop 1 suggestion, just 1 build or 1 farm. But what I'm going to do with those suggestions is, in the next episode, episode 8, we're going to take 3 comments and we're going to build them. So not only would your idea potentially get put into this world, but you also get a shout out in the next video. So if any of you have any ideas of builds that you want me to do, or ideas that you have in general for farms or anything like that, be sure to let me know, and I will comb these comments and pick 3 that I really like, and we'll build them in the next episode. And of course, I have some rules. So before you get to typing, hear me out. Nothing with villagers, because I have an idea in mind for what we're going to do with the villagers already. We are going to build them a town. So if you have any ideas for buildings that you want to see in the town, you can always drop them in the comments, but I won't be working on anything with villagers next episode. So preferably something else. But what is on the table still is an iron farm. So if any of y'all have a really creative suggestion for an iron farm that will kind of fit into a town theme, I'd be happy to build that, because an iron farm is something we desperately need. And if you also have any ideas for that villager breeder back there, but building ideas, not doing a breeder, because obviously we already have one. But yeah, pretty simple. 3 comments, 3 builds. It can be a farm, it can be any kind of building, something completely random, I don't care. But that is the plan for next episode. And before we finish off this episode, we have something important to take care of. Now, before we do the comment of the day, I have a quick announcement. I did start an Instagram account. The link will be in my YouTube bio description, so be sure to go check that out. I'll be posting like video announcements, pictures of my builds, just general stuff. And also, I did start school a couple weeks ago, so the videos will be a little slower coming out. I do apologize for that, but education is important and I need to focus on my schooling. So sorry for the delay in between episodes. Hopefully, it'll only be 2 to 3 weeks in between each episode. I am working on them constantly. So, just whenever I have time, I'm going to try and get them out as fast as I can. So, thank you for being patient. Today's comment of the day comes from Aaron Kaufman. He said, "Hey Coda, I just found your content and I really like it, man. I've liked all your videos and I just wanted to say that you make my day a lot better. Keep it up." Thank you, Aaron. I'm glad I could make your day a lot better, and I hope I do the same for a lot of you watching. I really have a fun time making these videos, and seeing how many people like the stuff that I put out really puts a smile on my face. I don't know if you can hear it through the mic, but yeah, I'm smiling ear to ear, and the support on all my videos is crazy. And I want to say thank you, thank you, thank you to everyone. And I really hope you enjoyed today's episode. And with that being said, have an amazing day.